This week on the show, we have American entrepreneur Mark Cuban. Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for watching. This show is all about giving you insights and showcasing brands that help you to live your best life and give you confidence. As always, I want to kickstart your morning with some motivational advice to help you to feel inspired and energized to start your day. Today, I want to talk about the importance of understanding that your life is only as good as your mindset. The reality is the way we think determines how we experience life. For example, someone whose inner dialogue is filled with empowering thoughts is more likely to see life with a more positive lens than someone who simply lets their mind roam on autopilot. Think of your mind as a car and you being the driver. You can have the most beautiful car in the lot, like a Porsche or Lamborghini, but if it's not driven and directed, it sits there idle. Similarly, when we begin to be the driver of our lives, we're able to steer our minds to work for us rather than against us. Make it your mission today to commit to becoming more self-aware of your inner dialogue and begin to prioritize filling your mind with thoughts and affirmations that make you feel powerful rather than feeling like a victim. Remember, you are in the driver's seat at all times and can steer your mind in a positive direction. As Oprah Winfrey quotes, "You want to be in the driver's seat of your own life because if you are not, life will drive you." Stay tuned. Coming up after the break, I want to talk about the Dallas Mavericks. You sold the Dallas Mavericks for $3.5 billion. And I know the Dallas Mavericks had the best record in the NBA during that time. So tell us about that accomplishment as well as your passion for sports. I know you're a sports guy.
Yeah. So when we sold broadcast.com to Yahoo, and broadcast.com, for those who don't know, was the very first commercial streaming company. So there was a time, believe it or not, where you couldn't do an interview like this. There was no streaming. And so we started that company, built it so it was the YouTube of the late 90s, early 2000s, sold it. And when I sold it, we sold for stock. I was able to convert it to cash after a year. And so I was like, okay, now it's time to live my dreams. You know, this has been a dream so far, but I'm 41 years old. What do I love to do? I love to play basketball. I'm playing pickup almost every day at the gym. What would be better than buying the Dallas Mavericks? And so I'm sitting at a game with my then girlfriend, now wife. It's the opening night of the 99-2000 season. And I'm looking around and it's not even sold out. I mean, we're undefeated. You know, it's the first game of the season. This is when, you know, the hype should be the highest. And there was no energy. I'm like, I can do better than this. And I'm a huge basketball junkie. So found the right people, got connected to the owner at the time, and bought the Mavericks in January of 2000 for $285 million.
Wardrobe provided by Le Chateau. Next up on the show, we have billionaire entrepreneur Mark Cuban, who you might recognize from the hit TV series Shark Tank. Mark, thank you so much for being on the show today. How are you doing?
I'm cooking with heat, man, and loving life. How are you?
I'm doing amazing. You know, I've wanted to have you on my show for so many years. I feel like I manifested this experience. So thank you for being here. It's exciting for me.
It's exciting for me too. Thanks for having me on.
So Mark, you know, you've always been an entrepreneur at heart. I know at 12 years old, you were going door to door selling garbage bags. So tell us about that entrepreneurial spirit.
You know, my dad did upholstery on cars, like if you had a rip in your car seat, and worked his ass off all for his entire life. My mom did odd jobs. Yeah, the way they raised me was if you want something, you have to figure out a way to get it yourself. Ooh. And so one day my dad was playing poker with his buddies, and I went in there to get some donuts, I'll never forget. And let's just say they had a bunch of adult beverages. And so I was saying to my dad, like, Dad, I want some new basketball shoes. And he looked down at my feet, he says, those shoes look like they work really, really well. When you have a job, you can buy whatever you want.
Oh, wow.
And one of his drunk buddies pipes up, he said, I got something for you. And I'm like, what? He goes, I've got all these boxes of garbage bags. And if you want to sell them to your neighborhood and your neighbors, I'll let you sell them. I was like, cool, let's go. And so they were boxes of 100 garbage bags. Oops, sorry. I don't know what's going on with this tripod. Boxes of 100 garbage bags that I would buy for $3 and sell for $6. And literally, I would go door to door and it'd be like, hi, my name is Mark. Do you use garbage bags?
Wow.
I would just kill it, right? No one's going to say no. Imagine this is a 12-year-old face.
Yeah.
No one's saying no to me, and it was a great experience, but that's what gave me the entrepreneurial bug.
I I love that. I feel like those are the kind of moments that build character. I used to do the paper route, and I feel like because of that, I have so much discipline and grit now because of that, those kind of experiences, right? And Mark, right out of college, you founded the company Micro Solutions, and you sold it to H&R Block. Tell us about that milestone at such a young age.
After college, I had a little journey of my own and then ended up in Dallas, Texas. And I was living 6 guys in a 3-bedroom apartment, sleeping on the floor. And my first job when I got to Dallas was working as a bartender at a club called Alon's. And it was an okay job, but it wasn't my future. That's not what I wanted to be when I grew up. And so I started going around looking for jobs and found one at the software store. And I didn't really have a tech background at the time. And so I got interviewed by the owners, and they were asking me, and they were more concerned about my sales ability than my technical ability. And it was like, okay, come on in. We think you'll work. And I just took to it, right? And so it was going great. My sales were great. And then one day I had a chance to close this big deal, a $15,000 sale. I was going to get a $1,500 commission, which meant I could move out of the shithole that I lived in with 5 other guys.
Yeah.
And so I went, and at this job, big part of my responsibility was to sweep the floors, wipe down the windows, and open the store when it opened. And I got somebody to cover for me, and I called my boss and said, look, I'm going to go pick up this check. It's going to be $15,000. He goes, no, I need you to be here. And I made the executive decision to not listen to him and go get the check because I needed that commission. Showed up with the check, he fired me.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, okay, now I'm unemployed living in a shithole. And I'm like, look, I'm just not a good employee. It was very obvious. So I was going to start my own company. So while I'm sleeping on the floor, I found a company called Architectural Lighting. I just through referrals. And I went up to him. I said, look, I got nothing. I just got fired, but I know you want this software. It costs $250 for me to buy. I don't have $250. If you front me the $500, I promise you, if it doesn't work, I'll sweep your floor, I'll wash your car, I'll walk your dog. Well, the good news is that was the start of Micro Solutions, and it worked. And I was 24 years old, and from there, it just grew and grew and grew and grew till we had 80 employees, $30-some million sales run rate. We're profitable, and H&R Block came along and said, come on, we'll buy you. And I said, yes, please.
Wow.
And that was my first company, Micro Solutions.
Wow, what an accomplishment. I mean, from being broke and staying on the floor and then having something like that, that's incredible.
Yeah, you know, on Shark Tank, my buddy Damon John always talks about the power of broke. And to me, I didn't know it then, but it's so true. I had nothing to lose. I literally had nothing to lose. I had 2 suits that were polyester suits that I bought for $99. I had the rest of my clothes I bought used, my ties, my shirts, any type of dress pants I had, I bought used. I bought knockoff polos that would tear. I mean, I had nothing. And so starting a company with nothing was easy, right? I just had to find that first customer.
Mm-hmm. Well, as Tony Robbins says, in life you need inspiration or desperation, right? You need one of the two. And sometimes desperation is the place to start because, as you said, you have the hunger to do so. I want to talk about the Dallas Mavericks. You sold the Dallas Mavericks for $3.5 billion. And I know the Dallas Mavericks had the best record in the NBA during that time. So tell us about that accomplishment as well as your passion for sports. I know you're a sports guy.
Yeah. So when we sold broadcast.com to Yahoo, and broadcast.com, for those who don't know, was the very first commercial streaming company. So there was a time, believe it or not, where you couldn't do an interview like this. There was no streaming. And so we started that company, built it. So it was the YouTube of the late 90s, early 2000s, sold it. And when I sold it, we sold for stock. I was able to convert it to cash after a year. And so I was like, okay, now it's time to live my dreams. This has been a dream so far, but I'm 41 years old. What do I love to do? I love to play basketball. I'm playing pickup almost every day at the gym. What would be better than buying the Dallas Mavericks? And so I'm sitting at a game with my then girlfriend, now wife. It's the opening night of the 99-2000 season. And I'm looking around and it's not even sold out. I mean, we're undefeated. It's the first game of the season. This is when, the hype should be the highest. and there was no energy. I'm like, I can do better than this. And I'm a huge basketball junkie, so found the right people, got connected to the owner at the time, and bought the Mavericks in January of 2000 for $285 million.
Wow. I mean, Mark, you're one of the most famous American billionaires. I want to ask you, you know, as an entrepreneur, it's not easy. People want to become entrepreneurs, but they have no idea how much grit, determination, and failure it takes, right, to be an entrepreneur. So what are 3 traits you would say that have made you successful as an entrepreneur? Because as we all know, it's not easy.
Right, great question. Number 1 is I'm really curious, particularly in technology. Things are always changing. So I always have had this burning desire to learn. My kids now are like, why are you reading? Why are you reading? Why are you online learning? Well, you know, and it's because you know, if you're going to be successful in business, that's what you have to do, because business is ever changing. And because it's ever changing, you also have to be agile. You've got to be able to adapt, because there's always competition. There's always things changing. You know, now there's AI. How is AI going to impact my business? How is it going to, what's the competition going to be? So you've got to be agile as things change. And to start a business, you got to know how to sell.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes is the biggest inhibitor. You know, in this business, Darriel, that you have to sell. You have to sell people to guests. You have to sell sponsors. You always have to be selling. And you know that there's never been a business in the history of businesses that's ever succeeded without sales.
Yeah.
So curiosity, agility, and you know, the desire and the ability to learn how to sell if you don't already know.
That is so true. And I think when you're passionate, you learn how to sell. As you know, as you said, like inspiration or desperation. I think if you really want something and you're passionate about it, you will figure out how to sell.
You'll figure it out, right?
Than anything.
You know, because every entrepreneur, everybody goes through that moment, and I have, and I know you have too, where it's like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah.
You know, this is not what I thought it would be. You know, it's harder, it's more frustrating. I'm not making any money. I'm starving, and people are laughing at me because I thought starting a business would make me more money. And, you know, back then literally when I was 27 years old, I looked at my bank account. I went to the ATM and I wanted to check what I had, and it was zero.
Yeah.
Zero. Couldn't take a nickel out. And so you reach that frustration point, and you just always have to remind yourself why you started.
Yeah.
You know, that I wasn't a good employee, that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I had to remind myself that's the way it goes. If it was easy, everybody would do it.
Yeah. Mark, I want to ask you, you know, what's one thing that drives you now that you have the money? That obviously doesn't drive you. What drives you to keep succeeding and, you know, to keep going after these big dreams?
I'm competitive. You know, to me, business is a sport.
Yeah.
The difference is, like when the Raptors play the Mavs, it's 48 minutes, and then the game's over, you go on to the next game. In business, sports, you know, you compete 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, forever. And to me, that's exciting. The ability to know that there's, you know, I used to be the young kid. When I started Micro Solutions, I was always the youngest one in the room, and I had to prove myself. Now I'm the oldest one in the room, and I have to prove myself. And so that excitement and that juice that comes from competing, that's what gets me going.
I love that you said that you still have to prove yourself, that you have the mentality that, you know, you still have to evolve and grow. I think that's where people, you know, stop growing, is when they think that, you know, they've accomplished everything. They don't need to prove themselves. I love that you said that.
When you're doing something you love to do, it just makes it easy.
Yeah.
And I love to compete. I love to learn. But now with costplusdrugs.com, I get to help people. You know, I get to reduce the cost of their medication. So when you find something that's also motivating to you internally, that makes it even better.
Yeah. And of course, you were a shark on Shark's Tank for many years. You still are. You know, how's it been seeing these entrepreneurs grow and using your expertise to help them?
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, it's been amazing. You know, you guys have Dragon's Den in Canada, and just everybody's got this fire inside of them that to start a business. The hard part is figuring out, you know, when to start and how to start. And when someone has gone through the process enough to get on that carpet in front of us and pitch us on television in front of tens of millions of people, that says a lot. And I really respect that. I don't know if I would have been able to do it at the beginning. And so to be there, and not only to help these companies, but to watch them set an example to everybody who's watched. I can't tell you, Darriel, how many times people have come up to me and said, okay, I started watching you as a kid because the show's going into its 16th season.
Yeah.
You know, I started watching you as a kid, and you guys, I've learned so much, and you inspired me to start a business. That's what it's all about. That, to me, is the most exciting part.
Mm-hmm. And one thing that I love about you is that you're humble. I feel like even though you've accomplished so much, you're still really humble. I remember I met you so many years ago at the NBA All-Star Weekend in Toronto. I was waiting for Snoop Dogg to come out, and you came out. And I was so starstruck because for me, entrepreneurs are people I really respect. And I took a picture with you, and you thanked me after. And I was thinking, wow, what a nice guy. How have you remained humble all these years after, despite all your success?
A lot of my friends would tell you I'm not humble.
It's okay to be confident.
Yeah, you know, but to me, I try to never take it for granted. I mean, I'm the luckiest guy in the world. It's insane to me that some kid from Pittsburgh who, you know, just grew up in a normal middle-class family could get to this point. You know, just a situation that's beyond my wildest dreams. So I never want to take it for granted. And honestly, you know, I say this to people a lot, but you are who you are when you're poor. That's who you are, right?
Yeah.
And if you get money, why would you change?
Yeah.
You know, the people that you know, when I was struggling, I think I still had the same personality. And if you talk to my friends, they would tell you I'm the same idiot now as I was then.
Yeah.
You know, and I have the same friends, my friends from high school, my friends from college, my friends from playing rugby, my friends from when I first came to Dallas. Those guys are my buddies still. And so it's really easy just to be myself.
Mm-hmm. I love that. The power of authenticity, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And Mark, what does success mean to you after achieving so much success? What does it mean to you now?
Just being able to wake up with a smile, you know, having a healthy family. And, you know, I have 3 teenagers basically. And so that's a battle, just trying to, you know, deal with that and, you know, stay connected to my kids. That's what success is for me. I mean, I don't have to ever worry about money. They don't have to worry about money. Their kids don't have to worry about money. So it creates its own other challenges. You know, how do you keep them humble? How do you keep them grounded? And so to me, success is just knowing, you know, that my kids care, my kids, you know, that my kids respect my wife and I. You know, it's just more family related things. And, you know, just knowing that we have love in our family. That's just like the best thing ever.
Mm-hmm. And what's something that got you through failure in your life? Because I feel like so many people, entrepreneurs, everybody, just anybody in life, you know, once they experience failure, especially if it keeps happening, which it does, that's part of life, right? We give up. What's something that's been a mindset that you had that's kind of helped you to persevere when you fail?
Yeah, it's a great question. You know, what I used to tell myself is, you know, number one in sales, every no gets you closer to a yes. And 2, it doesn't matter how many times you fail. You only have to be right one time. Then everybody calls you an overnight success, right?
Yeah.
How many years did you work on building your show to this point? And now, you know, you are where you are, but people don't care about that journey. But we all fail, like you said. We all can fail a lot, but nobody remembers your failures. You don't know about that powdered milk company I started. You don't know about any of the things I did that failed. You know, you when you see people that have been successful, you see their successes. You don't see the multitude of failures. And so I would just remind myself, all you got to do is get it one time. Just get it right one time, and then anything is possible. And that's what happened.
Yeah, I love that. You know, no means next opportunity, right? It means the next opportunity. You got to keep going. And Mark, let's talk about your latest company. I know you're in the health industry now, so tell us about that company.
Sure, I'm glad you asked. So, you know, in the United States in particular, the healthcare system is a mess.
Yeah.
You know, you don't know what things cost. You don't know what your prescription medication cost. So we created a company called costplusdrugs.com. And what we wanted to do that's been different is we're transparent. When you go to costplusdrugs.com and you put in the name of the medication, we carry about 2,500 of them. So if we carry your medication, the first thing you see is our cost. We show you exactly what we pay for it. The second thing you see is our markup. We mark up our medications 15%. Then you see if it's mail order, the shipping cost, and then the cost we pay the pharmacy to check everything to make sure it's right. And being transparent like that, that was the first time in the healthcare industry that anybody was completely transparent and published a price list. And what that did, that's so different and has allowed us to become so successful, is that it allowed people to trust us.
Yeah. Because
typically here in the United States, and even to a certain extent in Canada, when you walk in and you get a prescription for a med, if it's a certain type of medication, you don't know what it's going to cost.
Yeah.
You know, even today. And in the US, no matter what the medication is, if you're paying yourself, it's terrifying not to know. I mean, we've all heard stories of people in pharmacies here in the States or waiting in line and then getting there and realizing they can't afford their medication. That's just heartbreaking. And so by having only a 15% markup, more people can afford us. And that's been life-changing. Literally, there's been drugs that I had a friend, Landon, and he unfortunately had been in this horrific car accident, and he had to take this drug called droxidopa. I don't even know what it does, but he had lost his insurance, and he emailed me and said, Mark, here's the situation. Because I lost my insurance, I'm going to have to pay $10,000 every 3 months for this drug. Do you guys carry it? And that time we were just getting started, did not carry it. I'm like, Landon, let me check. I check, our guys find it. I'm like, what's our cost? Mark it up 15%. What are we going to charge Landon? He goes, okay, it'll be 64 times 3, $192 every 3 months, $64 a month.
Yeah.
That's just life-changing. I literally have had people walk up to me crying and hug me because the cost of their medications went from $2,000+ for their chemotherapy medication down under $30.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Canada is a little bit better, but the US, I'm so glad you have a solution for that, because people are dying too because they can't afford healthcare. So I love that you have a solution for that. We're going to link that information for our viewers as well.
Please do. Thank you.
So that they could, get involved. And I want to ask you, I created my platform to inspire, to uplift, and I want to ask you, for anyone that's watching this that is maybe on the cusp of giving up, they're putting in the work, they're not seeing results, or they're just feeling unmotivated, what would you say to inspire them?
It happens to everybody. It happens to everybody. And you've got to find that one thing that allows you to refresh. For me, it was playing basketball. Like if things weren't going well at work, still, I'll go play basketball. And, if I have to give somebody an elbow or a shoulder, it kind of like reduce my stress. But for me, it's always that sound of the ball going through the net that just put me at peace. You got to find what that one thing is. People meditate. That's always great. Take yoga, work out, read, whatever it may be. But once you can just rejuvenate your mind, right, and rejuvenate your internal energy, then you can start again. Because if you quit, man, there's nothing worse than the pain of regret.
Yeah.
Oh, if I just would have stayed with it. And sometimes the economics force you to quit. Mm-hmm. The bills are 10 and you only got 9. That's just the way it goes. That's happened to me. It happens to a lot of entrepreneurs and CEOs. If you can't afford to keep going, you can't afford to keep going. But where there's sweat equity involved and it's all you and you can afford to keep going, the pain of regret, looking back in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years and thinking, oh my goodness, why did I stop? That's far worse, because that's complete uncertainty and that's just agonizing.
That is very true. You never know when you're on the cusp of just trying one more time and succeeding, right?
For sure,
just
right?
One more time.
Know that one that one leverage point is, right? That one customer that walks in, and I can't tell you how many times at Micro Solutions, right? It was like, oh my God, we're struggling. We just need that one more, and thinking this is the one, and it wasn't. This is the one, and it wasn't. And then bam, there it was, and it catapulted us.
Yeah. And Mark, I have a lot of young viewers that watch my show, young entrepreneurs all over the world. So I want to ask you right now, who are you kind of leaning toward politically? Because it might help someone watching. And why?
Yeah, I like Kamala Harris. I just trust her. Donald Trump is who he is. We know who he is. I know what he's like in business. I'm just not a fan of the way he does business. And to me, if I can't trust you in business, I can't trust you in the White House. Well, Kamala Harris is not a business person per se. I just trust her. She's more open. She's more uplifting. She's more candid. She's not as mean or negative.
Yeah.
It comes down to this. Who would you, if you're 16, 17, 18 years old and you said to your parents, who would you like me to be like? Kamala Harris or Donald Trump? Or you're older and you have kids, who would you like your children to be like? Kamala Harris or Donald Trump? To me, the choice is easy.
Mm-hmm. I like that analysis. If I can't trust you in business, then how are you supposed to trust someone? That's an interesting way of putting it. And Mark, what are your current projects? What are you currently working on?
Cost Plus Drugs, a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I'm working on my jump shot a lot. And working out. But really, cost plus drugs and really trying to get up to speed on artificial intelligence, because, I've invested in so many companies right now that trying to find ways to help them and help them understand how to use AI. Because, as we go forward, there's only going to be two types of companies in this world: those who are great at AI and everybody else. And the everybody else's are going to struggle. Now, there's a lot of challenges in figuring out how to use AI. And I strongly recommend, even if you're just doing it for your homework, go to ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini by Google, and play with it as much as you can and learn to see what it's good at and what it's not good at. And actually, if you have a business idea, plug it in there with as much detail as you can write and say, write a business plan for it. ChatGPT, all of them will give you a good foundation to work from. It won't be a perfect business plan. You still have to ask, you still have to give it enough information to make it worthwhile and check for the mistakes. But it's a great way to learn it and a great place to start.
Absolutely. Mark, thank you so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate it. It's really an honor for me. So thank you. And congratulations on all your success.
Thanks. It's an honor for me too. Thanks for having me on. And thanks for your persistence. It's been 3 years we've been talking about this, maybe longer.
It has been. That's the, what, if anyone can take away from this interview, it's persistence wins.
Persistence pays.
The Darriel Roy Show is available on Roku, Amazon Fire TV, iHeartRadio, and Apple Podcasts.